There is a psychological paradox that Niccolo Machiavelli observed over 500 years ago in the royal courts of Europe, and it remains disturbingly relevant today, a paradox that explains why some men naturally attract attention, respect and desire, while others, despite having good intentions, are consistently ignored or pushed into the friend zone. The paradox is simple to explain, but brutal to accept. Women are not attracted to what you do for them. They are attracted to who you are without them. And today I'm going to reveal 7 psychological principles rooted in Machiavellian thinking that transform an ordinary man into a magnetic presence. But be warned, the 7th principle is so counterintuitive, so opposite to everything you've been taught, that it will probably make you uncomfortable. And that's exactly why it works. Stay until the end, because that final principle is the one that changes everything. Before we dive in, let me address something important. The statistics on this channel reveal something interesting. Thousands of you watch these videos until the very end, mentally take notes and probably apply these principles in your own lives, but leave no trace that you were ever here. No like, no comment, no subscription. If this content brings you real value, if these psychological strategies are improving your interactions, take 3 seconds right now to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Why does this matter? Because YouTube's algorithm works on one simple principle. Engagement amplifies reach. Every like, every comment, every subscription sends a signal that allows this knowledge to reach more men who need it. We're not just building a channel, we're building a community of men who refuse mediocrity and understand the true dynamics of attraction. Show your presence, act now, and let's discover together these 7 principles that will redefine your approach to relationships. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that men generally judge more with their eyes than with their hands, because everyone can see but very few can truly feel. What he meant is this: social appearances are a performance, a stage, a theater. The truth is revealed by what people do when they believe no one is watching. Applied to attraction dynamics, this principle reveals something fundamental. There is often a gap between what women consciously say they want and what their deep psychology actually responds to. Not because of hypocrisy, but because attraction is not rational. It is visceral, instinctive, rooted in millions of years of evolution, and the man who understands this distinction, who learns to speak the language of authentic attraction instead of the language of shallow social expectations, that man gets results others can't even imagine. Principle 1. Independent wholeness. The first principle is the foundation of everything that follows, and it's the one most men violate every single day without realizing it. You must be psychologically complete before seeking a relationship. Not almost complete, not 80% complete, completely complete. What does that mean in practical terms? It means your happiness, your sense of purpose, your self-worth cannot depend on female validation, because the moment a woman detects that you need her to feel whole, something primitive shuts down in her brain. Why? Because evolution has programmed women to seek men who can provide security, stability, and protection. And a man who needs her to feel complete cannot provide those things. Psychologically speaking, he becomes a child searching for a mother, not an equal partner. Here's how this shows up in real life. The incomplete man cancels important plans the moment she becomes free. He checks his phone every 5 minutes, waiting for her reply. He bases his mood on how their interactions go. He sacrifices his friendships, his passions, his goals, all to maximize time with her. The complete man, on the other hand, already had a life that worked perfectly before she ever appeared. He has strong friendships, passions that energize him, goals that push him forward. She doesn't enter a void, she enters a world that's already in motion. And a world in motion is magnetic, because she's no longer asking, "Does he like me?" She's asking, "Can I be part of this interesting life?" The power has completely shifted, and that shift changes everything. Now, how do you cultivate this sense of completeness? This is not something you can fake. You must genuinely build a life that fulfills you. Identify 3 areas that truly excite you. Not what impresses others, but what lights you up when no one is watching. It could be a martial art, a business you're building, a musical instrument you're mastering, a body you're sculpting. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that these areas exist independently of any relationship. They are your anchor, your identity, your foundation. And when you are truly anchored in them, something fascinating happens. You stop chasing women, not as a strategy, but because you're genuinely absorbed in something bigger, and that absorption is one of the strongest attraction signals you can emit. Principle 2. Polarizing authenticity. This second principle goes against everything modern society teaches. You're told to be agreeable, avoid conflict, please everyone. That is the fastest path to total invisibility. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that the man who tries to please everyone ends up pleasing no one, because when you smooth out your rough edges, hide your strong opinions, and make yourself harmless, you also become flavorless, characterless, and forgettable. Polarizing authenticity means having clear opinions, even if they're not universally popular. It means expressing your values without apologizing, even if some people dislike them. It means being willing to lose the approval of those who were never aligned with you anyway. Why is this magnetic? Because in a world where everyone wears a social mask, where people carefully calculate every word to avoid offending anyone, the man who dares to be authentically himself becomes a fascinating anomaly. Women are not looking for perfection. They are looking for reality. They want to know who you truly are, not the softened, filtered version you present just to earn their approval. And paradoxically, by showing who you really are, including your unpopular opinions, you create a much deeper connection with the woman who actually resonates with you. Here's a concrete example. In conversation, most men agree with everything she says. They avoid disagreement. They sacrifice their own position to maintain surface-level harmony. They think this creates connection. What it actually creates is boredom. The authentically polarizing man, when he disagrees, says it not aggressively, not to provoke, simply because it's his truth. I understand your point of view, but I see it completely differently. Here's why. That ability to hold his own position creates respect, intellectual tension, and interest. Now, important clarification. I'm not talking about being a constant contrarian or provoking just for the sake of it. I'm talking about having intellectual and emotional backbone, knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, and refusing to dilute yourself to gain approval. And yes, this means some women will reject you. Perfect. Because the ones who stay, the ones attracted to your authenticity, are the ones you can build something real with. The rest would have wasted your time anyway. Principle 3. Calibrated presence. The third principle focuses on something very few men truly master, the art of calibrated presence. Most men operate in binary mode. Either they are completely absent, cold, distant, unavailable, or they are suffocating, overpresent, constantly available 24/7. Both extremes kill attraction. Total absence communicates disinterest. Constant presence communicates desperation. Calibrated presence is the art of dynamic balance. Niccolo Machiavelli observed that power often lies in controlled unpredictability, not random chaos, but strategic variation that keeps others in a state of attention. Applied to relationships, this means your emotional and time availability should naturally fluctuate based on what's genuinely happening in your life. When you're launching an important project, you naturally have less time and energy for the relationship. Your replies are more spaced out. Your interactions are shorter. This isn't a game, it's your reality. When the project ends, when you accomplish something meaningful, you naturally have more space for connection. You become more present, more available, more engaged, and this natural variation creates something powerful. This prevents the relationship from becoming predictable and routine. It keeps the dynamic alive. It forces the other person to stay attentive, to value moments of presence because they are not guaranteed. But here's the key most people miss. This variation must be authentic. If you pretend to be busy while you're actually sitting at home counting minutes, she will feel it. Women have an extremely sensitive radar for authenticity. They detect manipulation from miles away. Calibrated presence only works when it comes from a genuinely rich and varied life, That's why the first principle is so crucial. If you truly have a mission, projects, passions, your availability will vary naturally. You won't need to play games. Your real life will create the necessary dynamic. So, what does this look like in practice? Sometimes you're fully present in conversation, asking deep questions, listening actively, creating emotional intimacy. Other times your responses are shorter, more functional because your attention is focused elsewhere on something that truly matters. This oscillation creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's the same mechanism that makes casino games addictive. The reward isn't constant, it's variable, and that variability keeps engagement at levels predictability can never reach. But once again, use this principle with integrity. Don't turn it into cynical manipulation. Simply let your real life create this dynamic naturally. Principle 4. The unshakable standard. We now arrive at the fourth principle, and this is where many men begin to feel uncomfortable because this principle demands something. Modern society almost considers immoral, having high standards and enforcing them without compromise. Most men don't have real standards. They have vague preferences, timid wishes, quiet hopes that disappear the moment a woman gives them minimal attention. They tolerate behavior they hate, excuse obvious red flags, sacrifice their own needs just to maintain a relationship that shouldn't even exist. Why? Fear of loneliness, fear of not finding better, a belief that they don't have the right to demand more, and that fear is toxic. It turns men into weakened versions of themselves, clinging desperately to relationships that drain them. An unshakable standard means knowing exactly what you accept and what you do not. And when someone crosses your boundaries, you act immediately, not with anger, not with drama, but with clarity and firmness. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot have both. Adapted to this context, it becomes, it is better to be respected than adored, because respect creates lasting attraction. Adoration without respect creates contempt. Here's what that means in real life. If she disrespects you through words, actions, or neglect, you don't ignore it just to keep the peace. You address it calmly but firmly. This behavior doesn't work for me. I'd prefer we handle things differently. If the behavior repeats after you've clearly communicated your standard, you adjust your investment. You reduce the time, the energy, and the attention you give. You let your actions communicate what your words have already made clear. And if the behavior continues, even then, you leave. No negotiation, no begging, no endless second chances. You leave because your standard matters more than any individual relationship. This ability to walk away, this willingness to be alone rather than poorly accompanied, communicates something deeply attractive. It says, I value myself enough not to tolerate what doesn't work for me. My time, my energy, and my presence have real value. And paradoxically, this willingness to leave often makes leaving unnecessary, because when someone realizes you're serious, that your boundaries are non-negotiable, that you're not bluffing, behavior changes, respect appears, the dynamic rebalances. But even if that doesn't happen, even if she chooses not to respect your standards, you still win something far more valuable than a dysfunctional relationship. You gain self-respect. And that self-respect is the foundation of everything else. What should your standards be? That depends on you. But here are a few universal non-negotiables every man should have. Basic respect in communication, emotional and physical loyalty, mutual contribution to the relationship, the ability to handle conflict maturely, alignment on core values. If these are missing, no amount of physical attraction or superficial compatibility can compensate. And the man who understands this, who is willing to remain alone rather than compromise his standards, becomes rare, and rarity creates value. Principle 5. Productive tension. The fifth principle will shock those who believe healthy relationships must always be harmonious and friction-free. The truth is very different. Relationships without tension are dead. They're not peaceful, they're boring. Productive tension is the creative friction that keeps a relationship alive, dynamic, and interesting. This is not toxic conflict. It's not constant drama. It's the space between two strong individuals who don't dissolve into each other but maintain their integrity. Niccolo Machiavelli understood that absolute harmony is the enemy of progress. It is through friction, through opposition, through the clash of perspectives that growth and innovation emerge. Relationships follow the same logic. When two people always agree, when there is never any disagreement, when everything is always smooth, one of them disappears. They hide their real thoughts, sacrifice their real needs, wear a mask to maintain artificial peace. Productive tension, on the other hand, emerges when two authentic people meet. They won't always agree. They'll see some things differently. They'll have needs that sometimes clash, and that's normal. That's not a problem. That's proof that two real individuals are present. The man who understands this doesn't run from disagreement. He doesn't rush to fix every discomfort immediately. He allows tension to exist, to breathe, to reveal what it needs to reveal. Sometimes that tension resolves itself with time. Sometimes it leads to a deeper conversation. Sometimes it reveals a fundamental incompatibility. But in every case, allowing tension to exist is more honest, more mature, and more respectful than suppressing it artificially. Here's how this looks in real life. After a disagreement, the weak man rushes to apologize, to smooth things over, to restore harmony at any cost, even if it means betraying his own position, even if the disagreement was legitimate. The man who understands productive tension does the opposite. He creates space after the disagreement. He doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He allows both people time to process, to reflect, to return with more clarity. And often after that space, the resolution is more authentic, more mature, and more respectful than any rushed compromise. This ability to tolerate emotional discomfort, to not panic at the first sign of friction, communicates an emotional strength very few men possess. It says, I'm not so afraid of conflict that I'll sacrifice my truth to avoid it. And that strength is attractive because it signals that you can handle real challenges in life, not just the easy moments, that she can rely on you to stay solid when things get difficult, not only when everything is going well. Principle 6. Proportional investment. The sixth principle is a direct application of Machiavellian strategic thinking to modern relationships. Niccolo Machiavelli advised princes to invest their resources where the return was greatest and to withdraw investment when it became clear it was being wasted. Applied to relationships, this means your emotional time and energy investment should be proportional to what you receive in return, not out of cynical calculation, but out of self-respect and realism. Most men invest massively from the very beginning, giving everything they have before even knowing whether the other person deserves that investment. They treat every new connection as if it's already a committed relationship, offering levels of attention, effort, and emotional investment that should be earned gradually. And what happens? Either they overwhelm the other person with premature intensity, or they create an imbalance where they're constantly giving more than they receive. Both scenarios lead to failure. Proportional investment means starting modestly and increasing your investment only in response to what the other person demonstrates. In the beginning, you offer basic attention, respect, curiosity. You explore, you observe, you evaluate. If she responds well, if she invests too, if she shows that she values what you offer, you increase. You give more time, more emotional depth, more effort. If she doesn't respond proportionally, if she takes without giving, if she treats your investment as guaranteed, you reduce. This approach does two crucial things. First, it protects you. You don't waste your limited emotional resources on people who don't appreciate them. You remain available for those who truly deserve your investment. Second, it creates a healthy dynamic. When your investment is proportional and conditional, the other person realizes something important. Your presence in their life is not guaranteed. They must actively contribute, demonstrate value, invest as well. This creates mutual respect and reciprocity. So, what does this look like in practice? In early interactions, you don't share your entire life story. You don't immediately reveal your deepest vulnerabilities. You don't reorganize your schedule around her availability. You stay measured, observing how she responds. If she asks deep questions, truly listens, and invests time to get to know you, then gradually you open up more. If she stays superficial, distracted, or treats your attention as something she's entitled to, you keep things light and limit your investment. This is not manipulation. This is intelligent self-respect. And high-quality women respect this. They recognize that a man who values his own time and energy is a man who knows his worth. Principle 7. Total self-acceptance. We now arrive at the seventh and final principle, the one I mentioned at the beginning, the one so counterintuitive it will probably make you uncomfortable, and that is exactly why it is the most powerful of all. Here is the principle. You must accept yourself fully, completely, without conditions, including the parts of you that society labels as negative. Not to become arrogant, not to become narcissistic, but to reach a level of inner peace so deep that no external validation can shake it. Most men live in a constant state of self-rejection. They've internalized every social message about who they're supposed to be, and they mercilessly judge every part of themselves that doesn't match that impossible ideal. They feel shame about their desires, their weaknesses, their fears, their failures, and that inner shame leaks into every interaction. It creates an energy of begging, a desperate search for external approval to compensate for internal self-rejection. And that energy is repulsive. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote that men are so simple and so driven by immediate needs that anyone who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. But he also understood something deeper. The man who truly knows himself, who fully accepts his own nature, cannot be easily manipulated. Total self-acceptance means recognizing that you are a complex human being. You have strengths and weaknesses, light and shadow. You have desires society might judge. You've made mistakes. You're not perfect, and all of that is acceptable. This acceptance does not mean complacency. You can work to improve yourself while still accepting who you are right now. In fact, real improvement is impossible without self-acceptance because it comes from self-respect, not self-hatred. When you reach this level of self-acceptance, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing approval. You stop adjusting your behavior to please others. You stop wearing masks. You simply become yourself fully, unapologetically. And that total authenticity, that lack of need for validation, is magnetic, because in a world where everyone wears masks, where everyone performs an acceptable version of themselves, the person who dares to be completely authentic becomes a fascinating rarity. Women respond to this energy viscerally. They may not be able to explain it rationally, but they feel it. They feel they are in the presence of a man who doesn't need their validation, who is complete within himself, who offers his presence by choice, not by need, and this changes everything. Now she's no longer evaluating you. She's trying to earn your approval. She wonders, am I interesting enough, authentic enough, remarkable enough to deserve his continued attention? The power has completely shifted. And that shift doesn't come from technique, strategy, or manipulation. It comes from something much deeper. A man who has accepted himself so completely that he has nothing left to prove. Quick recap, the 7 principles. Let's quickly recap these 7 principles so everything is crystal clear. Principle 1, independent wholeness. Build a life that works perfectly without a relationship. Second principle, polarizing authenticity. Dare to be truly yourself, even if it doesn't please everyone. Third principle, calibrated presence. Naturally vary your availability based on your real life. Fourth principle, the unshakable standard. Have clear boundaries and enforce them without compromise. Fifth principle, productive tension. Allow disagreement and friction to exist without panicking. Sixth principle, proportional investment. Give progressively in proportion to what you receive. Seventh principle, total self-acceptance. Make peace with who you truly are completely. These principles are not techniques to apply mechanically. They are states of being to cultivate, and when you truly integrate them, when they become your nature instead of your strategy, you no longer chase attraction. You embody it. If this video revealed something you always felt intuitively but couldn't put into words, if these principles resonate with a truth you already recognize, act now. Like this video, subscribe to Dark Psyche, and share this content with another man who needs to understand that real attraction doesn't come from superficial seduction techniques, but from a deep transformation of who you are. In the next video, we'll explore something even deeper: the subtle signals that reveal when a woman has lost respect for you, and how to reverse that dynamic before it's too late. This is not content you'll find elsewhere. This is raw, unfiltered psychology of power dynamics in relationships, and only men willing to face uncomfortable truths will have access to it. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, the man who masters his own mind masters his destiny. The empire of charisma is not a destination. It's a continuous evolution, and you've just crossed a decisive threshold.